Now, of course, we can all look at the module definition form and see what it is on paper that you're doing, but what we wanted was to get a better understanding for the viewers of how it is from a student's perspective, a sort of introspective and at the same time retrospective view of the module, and how you progressed along the module from beginning to end. So if we're talking about investigating the work setting, how did you start on a module with no classes, and how did you know what to even do? Yeah, the first part of this module was to put together my own learning plan. I basically had to find my own way around the resources, look ahead to what needed to be done over the entire module, and put this into a plan that I could follow so I could keep up with each learning outcome at each stage of the way. But didn't that freak you out? Of course it did. Here I am, not studying in years, and suddenly I have to do all this stuff myself. The one thing I can say is that the actual task of putting together the plan gave me the understanding of what lay ahead in order for me to push forward. Although if I had it to do over, and what I might do for next semester is put my plan into a calendar and schedule the tasks with reminders. That way if something changes I can just move things around in the calendar and make sure I never get behind. So you did this plan and realised what was expected from you, but what next? The next step was to start gathering evidence, taking photos and making notes at work for the investigating the work setting part. I mean, I must say, this made me look at my job in a way I never had before. I really had to think hard about what it was that made my role. I mean, just beyond the job description and what's on paper, really. And I found the Tyndall paper in Plone and the book Critical Thinking by Bell and Kemp really opened my eyes on how to look at things from a critical perspective and how to start asking questions and actually to never stop asking. How did you feel about taking the photographs? Well, I had to speak with my line manager first to see if that was okay, and I felt a bit weird standing around taking pictures, but it was all for a good cause. I shared the video with my line manager and he said it was really interesting. I might suggest that it be used for new starters to give them an idea of what their role will entail. And this task actually fed directly into the next one. Oh really? What was that? Yeah, it was analysing the relationships within my work structure. Wow, that sounds like a lot of work. No, not really. All the groundwork had already been done when I was investigating my role. I found this task really easy because my role is sort of central to the university, so I already had an understanding and knowledge of where the relationships were and the chains of command that were in place. So it was almost too easy? Oh no, I had way too much evidence for this task and actually had to learn how to be selective with my evidence, as I read and was described by Control and Ruggiero. So this module is basically all about your work and that's it. Funny you should ask, because the next step was to critically evaluate myself and then produce a personal development plan based on the self-evaluation. That sounds a bit strange. How did you go about doing it? Well, first I made a SWOT table and listed all the elements in the table realistically and honestly. And then I took the findings from the self-evaluation and put together a plan to develop myself. That must have been weird though, looking at yourself like that from that angle. I tell you what, it's one of the best things I've ever done. It really opened my eyes as to what I was missing and what I needed to do in my life. It gave me a sense of vigour for the first time in years, to know that I had a plan that I was going to follow, goals that I would achieve at the end of that plan as well, and something I'd never thought of doing before, which is really weird. I feel so confident now that I'm going to slowly but surely tick off all the goals on my plan because I've made sure that they're realistic and achievable. Is that what you expected to gain out of the module? No way, I honestly thought, oh yeah, so I'll just be looking at my job and that's it. I had no idea I would end off the module feeling so inspired and excited to take on the next few years of my life. Okay, so we've heard all the praise, but there must have been something negative about the module. It couldn't have all been good. Well, I think what could be perceived as a negative by others is the amount of work one has to do using their own initiative and the amount of action inquiry involved. I mean, I love this type of working. I really hate being told what to do, and I find the best way to learn is to actually find things out for myself. And that way they tend to stick in my head. So for me, this wasn't a negative. But then again, you have the peer support of the fellow researchers in first class. So if you are ever unsure, you could always seek advice there. Do you have any regrets? No, no regrets, but more of a case of things to improve on in the future. Like I said earlier, I'm going to plan out my time more efficiently and schedule things into my calendar for next semester. I'm also going to try harder to become more of a critical thinker and to always question things and statements around me. Okay, thank you for sharing this with us, and we wish you the best of success in the future.